witness, saith Yahuah Elohim, and my servant whom I have chosen. What is the first thing that comes to mind? You are my witnesses, and I too am a witness, saith Yahuah your Elohim. I need for everybody to pay close attention. This is very important. You are my witnesses, and I too am a witness, saith the Father, Yahuah your Elohim. Verse 11, I am Elohim, and besides me there is no Savior. If we're talking about a witness, we have a witness of the bride and a witness of the groom. What's the first thing that comes to mind? Right. So, marriage. Exactly. Nashim, a marriage. We have one party bearing witness to another party. It's an agreement. It's a marriage. It is real easy, just that simple. No problem, just that simple. The father would never break his covenant, his marriage agreement with the nation of Yashra'al. He would never, ever, ever do that. It is simply impossible. Impossible. We're going to go to the book of Jeremiah to prove this. Jeremiah, the 14th chapter. Jeremiah the 33rd chapter. The 33rd chapter. It's time for the rightful people to stand up. And those people are the 12 tribes of Israel. 33, 14. Let's see if we get some help here. Yahuah, Natan. It's Tanathan. It's Than, right? T-H-A-N? Because Than means to give. Yahuah has give, not Tan, not N-A-T-A-N, right? It's N-A-T-H-A-N, is it? Yeah. Okay, hallelujah. 33:14. Read it nice and clear, because you have the Sefer Bible, right? Yeah. Okay, all right, so you have the Master's Edition. Let's see what the Master's Edition has.
Jeremiah 33:14. Behold, the days come, says Yahuah, that I perform that good thing, which I promised unto the house of Israel and to the house of Yahuah.
Okay, very good. You saying everything correctly. I just want to make sure it's nice and clear. Remember, the Father would never break his covenant or his promise that he made with the nation of Yashra'al. It said, behold, the days come, saith Yahuah, that I will perform that good thing which I promised unto the house of Yashra'al and to the house of Judah. Read on.
In those days, and at that time, will I cause the branch of righteousness to grow up unto David. And he shall execute judgment and righteousness in the land. In those days shall Yahuah be saved, and Yahusha shall dwell safely. And this is the name wherewith he shall be called, wherewith she shall be called, Yahuah our righteousness.
The bride should be called what?
Yahuah our righteousness.
Right, hallelujah. Oh, if you got it. Very good, very good. Excellent, excellent. Now, like I said before, it is very important that when we read the scripture, is that we have like more than one source to make sure that we can validate the information that we have. That's going to be very important. Can somebody read verses 14, give my Ishab, read 14 to 26, please.
In Isaiah the 33rd?
Yes.
Okay. Behold, the days come, saith Yahuah, that I will perform the good thing which I have promised unto the house of Yashra'al and to the house of Yahuah.
Read on down to 26, please.
In those days, and at that time, will I cause the branch of righteousness to grow up unto David, and he shall execute judgment and righteousness in the land. In those days shall Yahuah be saved, and Yahusha shall dwell safely, and this is the name within. She shall be called Yahuah of righteousness. For thus saith Yahuah, David shall never want a man to sit upon the throne of the house of Yashra'al. Neither shall the priests, the Levites, want a man before me to offer burnt offerings, and to kindle meat offerings, and to do sacrifice continually. And the word of Yahuah came unto Jeremiah, saying, Thus saith Yahuah.
This is very important. Verse 20 is very, very important. Read on.
Thus saith Yahuah, if you can break my covenant of the day.
If you can break my covenant of the day. This is how strong this relationship that the Father has with the nation of Yashra'al. Read on.
And my covenant of the night. And that there should not be day and night in their seasons.
Right. And so the question is, this covenant or this marriage agreement that the Father has, is there still a covenant that the Father has with day, D-A-Y, today? Okay. Is there still a covenant that the Father has with the night?
Yes.
And what about our seasons? Well, we have the spring, summer, fall, and winter. So those covenants have not been broken. All right, read on.
Then may also my covenant be broken with David, my servant, that he should not have his son to reign upon the throne, and with the Levites, the priests, my ministers. As the host of heaven cannot be numbered, neither the sand of the sea measured. So will I multiply the seed of David, my servant, and the Levites that minister unto me. However, moreover, the word of Yahuah came to Jeremiah, saying, Considerest thou not what this people has spoken, saying, the two families which Yahuah hath chosen, he hath even cast them off.
So who is this? So verse 24. Consider you not what this people has spoken, saying, the two families. Anybody know who those two families are? Who? Right, okay. These two families have their Father have chosen. He has cast them off. Read on.
Thus saith Yahuah.
Thus they have despised my people.
Oh, sorry. Thus they have despised my people, that they should be no more a nation before them. Thus saith Yahuah, if my covenant be not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the ordinances of heaven and earth, then will I cast away the seed of Yaakov and David, my servant, so that I will not take any of his seed to be rulers over the seed of Abraham, Yishak, and Yaakov. For I will cause their captivity to return, and have no mercy on them.
Hallelujah.
And have mercy on them.
And have mercy on them. Exactly. The word mercy is associated with the word redemption. Now, what's interesting now about verses 14 to 26 is that they don't exist nowhere at all, okay, in the original Greek manuscripts. It's not there. So again, this is the reason why it's very important that when we're reading the scriptures is that we're using more than one source to make sure that the information that we have now is actually correct. We have to do that because we have now the Masoretic text now actually now giving us everything from verses 14 all the way down to 26. So again, proper reading and making sure that we have the best examples of how the Father wants us to walk is going to be very important. But we do know that this covenant still exists. For example, the book of Exodus, the 14th chapter, verse 22. I just wanted to bring that out.
I'm sorry, did you say that they don't exist anywhere?
They don't exist in the
original?
in the Greek manuscripts.
Okay.
Okay, but we have it here in the Masoretic text. But what's happening now is that if the Masoretic text, or the Greek Septuagint now, is actually over 800 years, okay, older than the Masoretic text, there was a reading and an understanding now that nobody knew of anything, all of this other, these adding these words here. Like, for example, go to Deuteronomy 4:22. I think it's 4:22. Deuteronomy, Devarim 4:22. All right. come back to it before service is over. I thought it was Deuteronomy 4:22. I want to make sure that I get it here, that I called it out. We'll come back to it. Let's go to Exodus, the 14th chapter, 14:22. Let's stay on track here. We keep an eye on the time here. Exodus 14. Exodus 14. I want to get into the heat of this here. 14:22. Okay, Exodus 14:22. They have, and the children of Yashra'al went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on the right hand and on the left. When it says here, what is your understanding here when we talk about Israel leaving Egypt, and we see now in verse 22, where it says, and the children of Yashra'al went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on the right hand and on their left hand. The word wall. Yeah. Okay, Israel is being delivered out of Egypt. They're about to go through the Red Sea. We talked about the Father being with the nation of Yashra'al over the troubled waters. And if we see the right hand of the Father operating on the right hand side, and then on the right hand side and on the left hand side. And Israel is now going through the waters. The wall will represent what? Protection. See how easy this is? And so we can see now the fulfillment of some of the promises that the Father made for the nation of Yashra'al. Besides me, there is no Savior. The nation of Yashra'al goes through the Red Sea, or the Reed Sea, and I will be a wall of protection on your right hand side and on your left hand side. So I just found that very interesting. Now, the love.
Also broken out.
Huh?
Also broken out.
Broken?
Broken out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we also have two now, coming through the waters here now, we have the symbolism of birth, immersion, coming through the waters. And when Israel came through the waters, what was the next festival that they actually was engaged in? We had it boarded up. Israel, we have the birth of the nation. They're coming through the waters. Israel is now a nation. What is the next festival after Israel came out of Egypt that they celebrated? Almost. The marriage. Remember, Pesach took place in Egypt. They were delivered from Egypt, came through the Reed Sea, this wall of protection, the birth of a nation. After the birth of a nation, Israel now goes through the marriage ceremony, which is called Shabbat, and we went through that a couple of months ago. Now, let's start to get into some of the heat of this here. We're going to get everybody's attention. So the intimate love of the Father and the room, Yahusha Mashiyach. Jeremiah. The women have been doing real good. We're going to make sure you can see if the brothers can regain their footing here with some of the questions that I like to ask questions. I want to make sure that everybody's paying attention. And everybody will be able to stand on their own 2 feet. If someone was to ask them a question regarding these scriptures here. Jeremiah 31. 31, let's see here. We're going to go to I'm going to read verses 35 to 37. 35 to 37. Let's keep doing that. Let's try this one more time. Okay, Jeremiah 31. Okay, 31, now we're in business. 31, 35. And again, we're talking about now the intimate love of the Father and the great Yahusha Mashiyach. Now this is both in the Greek Septuagint and in the Masoretic text, so we're good to go. 31, 35. Thus saith Yahuah, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. Yahuah of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, saith Yahuah, then the seed of Yashra'al also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. So the question is, because the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Christian church, they say, hey, listen, you know what? The Father's not dealing with the nation of Yashra'al anymore, the nation of Israel. The Father's now dealing with the Christian church. The nation of Israel was not able to do the law, statutes, commandments, so it's like a free-for-all now. Everybody is the Father's bride. Every single nation. But if we were to pay very, very close attention to the foundation or the foundational teachings, it teaches us again that the Father which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divided the sea when the waves thereof roar, Yahuah of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from me, saith Yahuah, then the seed of Yashra'al also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. So all these things are still in existence, and so I am very confident in understanding that the Father still exists. He still exists to this very day. Verse 37, though, is interesting in the Greek Septuagint. It says, though the sky should be raised to a greater height, which is important. Though the sky should be raised to a greater height, saith Yahuah, and though the ground of the earth should be sunk lower beneath, yet will I not cast off the family of Israel, saith the Father of Yahuah, for all that they have done. So when we begin to look at all that they have done, that should give us the understanding of if the Father is going to forgive Israel for all that she has done, we're talking about, again, redemption. And if we notice, everything that we've been talking about so far is all about the Father keeping his promises and keeping his vows. So the one that is actually not adhering to their part of the covenant is who? Right, it's the bride, it's Yashra'al. She is the one that's being disobedient. She's not keeping none of the promises and none of the vows, but she wants to hang on to the name Yahuah or Israel, and she's not keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments. If you're not keeping the promises and the vows, you cannot hold on to the name. Again, if you cannot hold on to the name, you can't attach the name to your name. It doesn't make sense at all. We're going to go to the book of Judges. The book of Judges, and we're going to pretty much kind of shut it down from there, but we have a lot of information in the book of Judges. 15? Okay, Judges. Let's get right to it. Let's get to it. So I give everybody a precursor, so everybody should be knocking a home run with Judges, the 11th chapter. We're talking about vows and commitments. We just go ahead and erase this. Judges, the 11th chapter, verse 1. Now Jephthah, the Gileadite, which is a tribe of Manasseh, he was a mighty man of valor. And he was the son of an harlot, and Gilead begot Jephthah. And Gilead's wife bare him sons, and his wife's sons grew up, and they thrust out Jephthah, and said unto him, Thou shalt not inherit in our father's house, for thou art the son of a strange woman. Now we're going to read this in the Aramaic, or in the Greek. And Jephthah, the Gileadite, was a mighty man, and he was the son of an harlot, who bore Jephthah to Gilead. And the wife of Gilead bore him sons, and the sons of his wife grew up, and they cast out Jephthah, and said unto him, Thou shalt not inherit in the house of our father, for thou art the son of a concubine. So, this is first of all, Jephthah is a mighty man of valor. He's a man of war. He's a very strategic type of guy. He knows how to get our people out of trouble, because he was going to war amongst the Ammonites with this here. The word begot is very important. It said Jephthah, Gilead begat Jephthah. Jephth. Is that right? How do you spell it? Jephth. Oh, A. Okay, Jephthah. H at the end. Okay, hallelujah. The word begot. Why did it say that Gilead actually begot Jephthah? Put it this way. We see that Gilead's wife was called a harlot, a concubine. What was the other name that she was also called?
Strange.
Right, a strange woman. What tribe was Jephthah from? He hadn't been of his father's lineage. It's a point I'm trying to get across. If you look up the word begot, it means lineage. It didn't make mention that he came from the woman's lineage, which was a harlot, a concubine, and she was also called a strange woman. It made mention now that Jephthah's brothers kicked him out of the house and said that he would not be part of the father's inheritance. Now, Gilead's other wife is very important. Why was Jephthah, according to his brothers now, why was he now kicked out of the house? Why did they say you would not receive an inheritance along with us?
He was born as a harlot. He was not legitimate.
There's a word that you said.
Legitimate.
Legitimate.
Yeah.
Right. So this woman now, she was not a legitimate woman. Some say that she was an Ishmaelite. Now, in order now for the seed to operate properly, you're going to need now an Israelite man and an Israelite woman. That is going to be very, very important. You married an Israelite woman. Let's say you married an Edomite woman in days before you came into Israel. You had a child with her, a son. Then later on, you married an Israelite woman and had a son by her, or with her. Who becomes the legitimate heir?
Somebody, this was like woman.
Huh?
The son.
No, not you. You already know.
Oh.
You already talked. You already said it. But who will become the legitimate?
Well, I can't. I already talked to the bar about this. Pierre told me to.
He said,
It's all right.
right, exactly. So I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So the child by the Israelite woman would actually be the proper heir. And the reason why we wanted to share this now is because we wanted to make sure that everybody understood the importance of the Israelite woman, because a lot of times she's counted out. A lot of times she's counted out. But we also want to make sure that everybody understand that she's very